Hi, my name is John Galuli. I'm the Technical Marketing Manager for APAC South at NVIDIA. I'm going to show you off Ultra Low Motion Blur 2 in action. So this is the ASUS PG27 AQN monitor. It was first launched a little while ago and it's designed as the ultimate esports LCD monitor. It's an IPS panel, 1440p, 27 inch. So this is really where we're seeing esports monitors going nowadays. 1440p 27 inch is the new standard. It runs at 360 Hertz, and this week we released a new firmware update with ASUS and that adds ultra low motion blur technology to the monitor. So what I have here, I have the same monitor with a few different settings. So this one on the right is running ultra low motion blur 2. The one on the left is just set up with G-Sync, and I've turned down the refresh rate of the monitor to 144 Hertz. So this is running at 360 Hertz. This has its brightness set at 50%. This is at 100%, and I'll explain in a minute why that's the case. So with ultra low motion blur 2, it's a backlight strobing technique. What that means is that on this monitor, the backlight is constantly on. And so even though you can't perceive it, you see every single LCD transition that's happening on the screen. So you get a slight amount of ghosting and a slight amount of blur. It's not going to really show up in the video. You kind of need it for, you need a really high-speed camera to really show it off. But I'm going to just sort of step through and explain how it's all working. On this ultra-low motion blur monitor, we're only pulsing the backlight. So what happens is we wait until all of the crystals have realigned, so we have a still image again. We turn on the backlight, we just blast it at full brightness. Turn it off, let the crystals refresh, blast the backlight again. So you have this pulsing backlight. Now this is kind of how fluorescent lights work. The human visual system doesn't actually perceive the flicker when it's happening at a high enough frequency. But what it does do is it means that we're not seeing any of the transitions of the crystals, and so we get a much sharper image. In this case, this training bot that's going across in this scene from Overwatch, the text is a lot clearer on this side to that side. Now this one's only running at 144 Hertz just because this is kind of the current standard for high refresh rate. Like 144 Hertz is probably where a high refresh rate monitor from over the past few years will sit, unless it's an esports specific monitor. So what I'll do now, I'll just bump this up to 360 Hertz. Just make sure I press yes. Okay, so we're now showing this, both these screens are 360 Hertz. What you're finding is this is a lot clearer because you're putting many more frames on the screen, but you still get a little bit of ghosting, a little bit of trailing, which you're not getting with ULMB2. Now the reality is that people playing esports aren't aiming at targets like this. This is an easy thing to hit. When you are playing, you're playing at a much higher speed. So what I want to do now that it's kind of let you get your eye in and sort of see, what the stepping up is doing and how the different monitors are showing the sharpness. I'm just going to increase the speed on both of these. So what we're now seeing is obviously twice the speed of movement. You're still getting a much crisper, sharper image on this one than you are on this one. And this is really important because this kind of represents how people are actually playing. It's harder to see because it's moving quicker, but you'll find there is less ghosting and less blurring of the text. And we have some great slow motion footage on our YouTube channel that really shows this in action. So this is more representative of how people play. You're flicking around, you're trying to land a shot on something that's moving quickly while you're moving quickly. So having this clarity at fast motion is really quite important for gamers.